Hi, my name is Chris Durham. Welcome to another episode of Drinks from Eddie Muller's Noir Bar. Each week I take a chapter from the book Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, Cocktails Inspired by the World of Film Noir, and I talk about the film in that chapter and I make the drink associated with it. Today we are going to be looking at the film The Breaking Point and making the drink the Hemmingway Daiquiri. Now, The Breaking Point came out in 1950. It was directed by Michael Curtiz. It is based on the novel To Have and Have Not by Ernest Hemingway. And there's a story that you're probably familiar with the other To Have and Have Not, I would assume so. There's a story that Howard Hawks, who directed To Have and Have Not, had bragged that he could take the Hemingway's worst novel and make a good movie out of it, and he picked To Have and Have Not. This is not to say that To Have and Have Not is a good movie and this is a bad movie. Hopefully you can hear me over the sound of the jet planes, where my house is kind of in the flight path. But this is not to say that To Have and Have Not is a good movie and this is not. I really love To Have and Have Not. I do, but this is a very good movie too. It stars John Garfield as a ship's captain who has a charter fishing boat. He takes people fishing. He's married. He's married to an actress, Phyllis Thaxter, and he basically is in kind of over his head. It's been a bad year all around, and he's behind on the payments on his boat. He ends up taking a passenger down to Mexico, doing some fishing on the way. He'd normally not necessarily go down to Mexico, but the money's really good and he needs the money. And there's a second passenger who would be Patricia Neal, and he doesn't really like the idea of taking this couple down because he doesn't really do charter trips. He does fishing, but the money is good. He gets down to Mexico. They're going to spend the night. He ends up wanting to get the money in cash from the guy who hired him. The guy says he doesn't have any cash, and the next morning he turns up missing. So here, John Garfield is down in Mexico, and he doesn't have enough money to get his boat out of the harbor. Which is obviously a big problem. He's already in financial straits. He runs into Wallace Ford, who is kind of a scumbag in this. He's always doing shady dealings, and because he's hurting for money, he makes a deal with Wallace Ford to smuggle these Chinese immigrants into the U.S. It goes horribly bad, but mostly for the Chinese immigrants and the person who ultimately hired him to do this. But it goes bad for him because there's one of the people ends up turning up dead, and they know that an American who was down there was involved. So he gets his boat seized by the Coast Guard, pending an investigation, and that causes him, because it's already broke. He didn't get paid for the job he took. He owes money on his boat, and he's kind of in trouble. It basically goes from bad to worse in this movie. It's definitely a film noir. It even seems like a film noir in the way it's filmed, even though a lot of it's shot out at sea in broad daylight. It feels very noir-ish. I do want to point out one person in the cast. I mean, John Garfield is always very good. Patricia Neal's always very good. But there's an actor, Juano Hernandez, who plays John Garfield's deckhand. If you think about it in terms of To Have and Have Not, he would be the Walter Brennan role, but not a drunk, African American, and the thing that makes it really unique, and for me what makes this movie worth watching, is his performance, because he's, yes, he works for John Garfield, but it's like they're partners, they're friends, or they're compatriots. And that is something you do not see with actors of color in films of this era. So that makes it really good. It turns out the New York Times called Juano Hernandez's performance quietly magnificent. So there you go. Very good film, very hard hitting, and it has an ending that is bleak, but the very, very last thing in the movie is just a complete gut punch to anybody who has any empathy at all. I mean, it's a tough ending. Good movie, tough ending. So we're going to do the Hemmingway Daiquiri when we come back. I hope you stick around for that. Cheers. And we're back. So this is a shaker drink. So we're going to start by loading up our shaker with some ice. I realize the framing is bad, but I don't think I'm going to sweat it. Kind of cutting off the top of my head. I'll try to lean forward and down a little bit. Okay, so we've got our ice, and we're going to start with 2.5 ounces of rum. And normally you'd be using white rum on this. I decided, Eddie said it might be fun to substitute in Captain Morgan, because John Garfield's name is Captain Morgan, so we're going to do that. I'm not sure how much is in this little airline bottle, because I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of money on a big bottle of spiced rum. That looks like it's about just shy of 1.5 ounces. Okay, so that's probably 2 ounces, and then we're gonna use the rest as just white rum, which is what it would have called for. So there's a 1/2 ounce of white rum, and then we've got a 1/2 ounce each of grapefruit juice and lime juice. And I'm assuming this is going to be a very tart drink. I do have grapefruit juice that came from my boss's grapefruit tree, so I'm hoping that'll be a little bit sweeter than it would be otherwise. But you're getting a full ounce of sour here, and the only sweet you're offsetting it with is this Luxardo cherry liqueur. So, and you're only using a 1/4 ounce of that, so I don't think we're getting a lot of sweet in this, so I'm assuming it's going to be a very, very tart drink. Whether it be too tart for me, I don't know, but that's just my inclination. So, I'm going to give it a good shake. Okay, and we're going to strain it into a chilled coupe glass, and good color on it. Now, and then for the garnish, I was supposed to do a lime wheel, but I screwed up. I only bought 1 lime, and I didn't cut it right, and I juiced it before I thought about it, and so I had a bunch of lemons, so I'm just doing a lemon wedge as my garnish, which may or may not be appropriate. Well, it definitely isn't appropriate according to the recipe, but there we go. It's a garnish. So here we go. The Hemmingway Daiquiri. Wow, less tart than I thought it would be. I mean, it's definitely tart. but I'm not feel like I'm drinking lemon juice or something like this. I like it. It's good. So from south of the border in that little bar that John Garfield got stuck in with Patricia Neal when he got stuck down in Mexico, we're gonna raise our glass, say cheers, and I hope you join me next time. Cheers.